Hello everyone and welcome back once again to another episode of Airports from Hell. For those of you who are new to the channel, Airports from Hell is basically a series in which we try to land at some of the most remote, dangerous and challenging airports in the world. In the last episode we flew into Locher Airport in the Himalayas, and the one before that we did a landing at Ceiba in the Caribbean. So if you haven't seen those two videos yet, I highly recommend you go check those out after this video. Today we are going to attempt a landing at Locher Airfield, located in the Italian Alps. In real life it is a private airfield and it is dangerous and challenging for several reasons. The first reason is the terrain surrounding the airfield. This can make it very windy at times and there's not much room between the two mountains on either side of the runway. So if you are distracted just long enough, you just might end up flying into one of them. Other than that, there are also cables near the airport, so you should definitely keep an eye out for those. And also a crane that's located near the airport. Adding to that, the elevation is quite high, and as I explained in my Locher video, this affects the performance of the engine, so monitoring your speed during approach is vital to prevent the stall. And lastly, it's also not quite a long runway, so floating is not recommended either. And during this time of the year, as you can see on the screen right now, the airfields in the Alps are covered in snow, which has its effect on your depth of field, and it also makes everything much harder to spot as well. Hopefully we'll manage to avoid all of those nasty hazards when we try to land this VL-3 from GMB aircraft at Locher. This is the first time I'm making a video on this specific aircraft, because I try to give every aircraft a bit of screen time, so that's why we went with this type for today's video, instead of, for example, the X-Cup, which was already featured in the previous video. At the moment we are parked on the ramp at Caproni Airport, just a couple of miles south of our destination. So to get to Locher Airfield we are going to do a quick VFR flight through the mountains first. Now very quickly guys, before we start, make sure you do a touch and go on that subscribe button along with the bell icon. And don't forget to like the video as well if you enjoy it. It would help my channel out a tremendous amount, so be sure to do all of those things. But for now, let's get started. So here we are inside the cockpit of the VL-3. I also recently bought the Honeycomb Alpha flight control, so a really fun feature of this joystick, or yoke I should call it, is that it has a couple of buttons. So in order to start this aircraft I no longer have to use the mouse or keyboards, so I can just use all of the buttons that I have on the yoke. As you can see, I just turned on the avionics and battery switch using the buttons on the yoke. Now I'm going to turn on the strobe light and also the navigation, beacon light and taxi light, but this aircraft only has strobe lights and landing lights, so that doesn't really do much. Down here we are going to set the fuel tank to the left one first. We're gonna turn on the fuel pump as well. Those things I still have to do with the mouse, but that's fine. And now I can start the engine. There we go. Engine is successfully started. One thing that you do have with the buttons on the joystick is that when you use the starter switch that is on the yoke, once you start the engine, normally the key would automatically go back to the both position, but on the yoke it stays in the start position, so as a result it kind of glitches. But yeah, that's not really that much of a problem. So flaps can go to the first position. So yeah, I'm gonna check where the wind is coming from real quickly. It seems like we're gonna have a crosswind, so we might as well choose in which direction we're gonna take off. So I'm gonna check real quickly on the navigation display. Locher Airfield, sorry, is already plugged into the navigation display. So what we are gonna do is we are going to go to this runway right here to the left of us, which is also the closest from where we are. And then we're gonna take off in a northerly direction and just follow this valley right here until we are at Locher. I'm not sure if the aircraft can climb above this terrain, but I think it should. So I think we're gonna be okay. Yeah, that's good for now. We don't need to do anything else. Flaps are set. Everything else is in the right position, so we can start the taxi to the runway. So here we are at the runway. Landing lights can come on now as well. Clear to the left and also clear to the right as far as I can see. Gonna make a left on this runway right here. Then backtrack a little bit and then we can take off and head to Locher. So here we go, guys. Positive rate, gear is coming up, flaps can already be extended. This aircraft does have quite a lot of engine power because we're already way above the white arc. So we can pitch up quite a lot now. And we'll climb at about, let's say, 80 knots. Now at this point I'm probably going to cut the video because the main reason why you guys are probably watching this video is the landing at Locher Airfield, so you probably don't want to see this boring VFR flight, so I'm gonna skip ahead to that point and I'll see you guys there. So welcome back, guys. We are almost nearing the airport now, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start descending and making our way down to the airport. We should be overflying it right about now. Okay, so there is the crane that I was talking about, so the airport is right there. There we have it. That's the airport right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fly towards this little village there, and once we pass that we're gonna make our way back to the airport, and in the meantime we're going to descend to a more suitable altitude. It's very important to keep a close eye on your speed at an airport with this elevation. And you'll see in a moment that there are quite some obstacles surrounding the airport, including the crane that we just saw, and also a bunch of power lines and such. So it's definitely quite a challenging airport to land at. So I'm gonna lower the speed a little bit so it's a bit easier to maneuver between these mountains. And I'm gonna start turning back about now. So we're gonna head back towards that valley and maintain a gradual descent. We don't want to get too low because otherwise we'll get too close to the power lines that I was talking about. So we'll just maintain a descent of about 300 to 500 feet per minute should be good. And I'll elevate the field of view a little bit so we can keep an eye on the obstacles and the mountains. First is coming back to idle so I can allow the aircraft to decelerate. I'm gonna select the gear now. The airport is somewhere over there, so I'm gonna increase the descent and extend our first notch of flaps as well. Second notch of flaps. That should help the aircraft slow down quite a lot. I have a visual with the crane, so we'll keep an eye on that as we pass it. It's quite hard to see, but the airport should be right here, where my mouse is aiming. So we're now flying above the power lines. Final notch of flaps. I'm just gonna trim out the aircraft as much as I can. And the last obstacle we need to overcome are those trees right in front of the runway. We don't want to get anywhere near those. Okay, so we're quite fast, but I think we'll make it. Ooh, this... No. And there we go, guys. We are down. Not really what I expected. We were not able to stop at the end of the runway, but does this count as a crash? You know, to be honest, I think it does, but it could have been worse. The thing that I did wrong on landing was that I floated a bit too long. I should have pushed the nose down just a little bit, so the aircraft would have touched down. But I was, I think, too fixated on getting a soft landing, so that's why we ended up going off the end of the runway there. So, but that's what I said at the beginning of the video. It is quite a short runway, quite a medium short runway, I would say. And so you need to keep an eye on not trying to float too much. And in this video I failed at that, so it's not really a successful landing, but also not the biggest fail, so I'm gonna count it either way. But yeah, if you want to do this landing yourself, just remember, do not try to float the aircraft, because otherwise you'll get something like this, and that's not good, right? So, let's try to make our way to the parking spot. Now you also have an up-close and personal view of the bushes in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, so that's good. If you wanted to see that, there you go. So yeah, luckily we did overcome all of the obstacles, the mountains and the weather at this airport. Only the runway was the one thing that we didn't manage to overcome. So what makes these airports so memorable, apart from the terrain and all the obstacles, is also that the parking. In order to get to the parking spot at this airport, you need to go downhill for a little bit. So you'll see that in a minute. There's the ramp right there. So if you don't manage your brakes on this, you might just end up flying into one of those trucks over there. Or in that hangar if you try to turn at the last minute. There we go. Landing light can also go off now. And we'll just park right here. There we go, parking brake is set. And the fuel pump can go. Don't know what that does, but fuel pump can go off. That will stop the engine. The magnetos can go back to off as well. Strobe light can go off. So yeah, here we are, guys. It's quite an interesting airport to fly in. If you want to download this airport yourself, a link will be in the description also for the airport that we took off at. A link will also be in the description for that airport. Yeah, it's quite a nice airport to fly in. I highly recommend you try to do it yourself, and hopefully you'll do better than I do. So just remember, don't float and I think you'll definitely be alright. It's quite a nice scenery as well. The person who made this really did a nice job. And also if you want to download this livery as well for the VL-3, I will also put a link in the description for that. But yeah, for now that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well with notifications on, so you never miss an upload, obviously. If you want to see more content from me, you can always follow me on Instagram. I post a lot of pictures and screenshots and videos and all of that on there as well, all about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And you can also reach out to me for any flight requests or airports or aircraft that you want to see on my channel. And you can also do that in the comment section below, obviously, as well. But yeah, I'm trying to get to 1000 followers on Instagram, so definitely be sure to give me a follow on there as well. We're getting quite close. We are at 820 followers right now, I think. So yeah, with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.